Welcome to episode 121 of the Girl About the Globe podcast. In this episode, I'm covering how to travel alone with anxiety. If you're anything like me and you suffer from travel anxiety or any kind of anxiety, this is the podcast episode for you. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you, the solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact.
You might find it quite hard to believe because I have actually been to 147 countries and 115 of these alone, I think. And every time I take a flight, I get travel anxiety. The last time I took a flight was last month. I tend to be quite bad on night flights, and the anxiety kicked in 5 hours before I even had to be at the airport. It's just really difficult to manage. So I wanted to record this podcast episode just to help anyone else who might also suffer from a bit of anxiety, and just to show you that even if you do, don't let it stop you from traveling. Whether you're traveling with people, definitely do not let it stop you traveling alone. If I can go to all of these places by myself, suffering from anxiety, you definitely can. So first of all, when you are going on a solo trip, the thoughts of traveling alone, you're probably going to come up with excitement. You're going to be feeling a bit of fear and anxiety. That is perfectly normal. Even if you don't suffer from anxiety, it's really natural to get it before you go away, especially if you're going away by yourself. It's a really weird feeling though. It's like a mix of excitement and a mix of nerves at the same time. The reason it happens is because you're taking yourself out of your comfort zone, so it can create some panic. In regards to the brain, we all have part of our brain that is the reptilian brain. This is the part of our brain that wants to keep us safe. It doesn't like change. Its role in your life is for you to survive and to keep you safe. So if you're doing anything out of the ordinary, this part of your brain will kick in, and this is where the anxiety and the negative thoughts come from. So the important thing to remember is that you're not alone. It's really normal to feel like that. I've posted it in our Girls About the Globe Facebook community a few times, and the amount of people who also say they feel anxiety before they travel, it's a lot. So please don't feel that you're ever alone. Traveling, especially with anxiety, is actually more common than you may think. You may be having thoughts of, will I meet anyone? Can I cope by myself? Even those thoughts might stop you from booking the flight. They might even just make you panic before you even decide and book your trip. But do not let the travel anxiety put you off going and having the most amazing experience. My anxiety tends to get worse when I'm overtired, and I now know the triggers and I'm learning how to deal with it a bit better, but sometimes it can be quite bad. So in my experience, the reality of everything is never as bad as what we imagine it to be. Last time I had it, which was last month, I did not even want to get on the plane. My thoughts were telling me, don't go to the airport, just cancel the flight. By the time I actually got on the plane, after the first half an hour, I was fine. So the actual act of flying was not as bad as my mind was making out it was 5 hours before. It is just our body's way of protecting us and by stopping us to go into the unknown. So here are my tips for dealing with anxiety when you travel. If you're getting travel anxiety before you even book your solo trip, number one, write down what is causing the anxiety. Is it the thought of not meeting anyone, not being able to cope by yourself? Maybe it's social anxiety. Maybe you're an introvert, and I am kind of half introverted, half extroverted, I would say. So maybe the thought of walking into a room full of strangers fills you with this anxiety. Then write down the worst that can happen to you to see logically that it's actually not that bad. Second tip, it can sometimes be really overwhelming at the thought of everything. There is so much to organise when you're travelling by yourself, and you are the only person who can organise it if you're going independently. So break your trip down into smaller steps. Step one, getting to the airport. Step two, your first flight, if you have a series of flights. Step three, how to get from the airport to the accommodation. Step four, next flight, for example. Just writing things down really seems to help. Tip 3, plan as much as you can before. Know where you need to go. Know how you're going to get from the airport to your accommodation. Find out what currency you need before. Cover every single detail that your mind is questioning so that you don't have anything left to worry about. Make sure that you leave yourself enough time to do that too. And that does eliminate so much anxiety when you have a lot of time and you can actually plan your trip. Tip number 4, find someone else in Facebook groups or forums that's been there. Ask them how it is for added comfort so that you know what to expect when you get there. Because it is the unknown, it is really good to actually find someone who's been there, just to put your mind at ease that it's not going to be as scary as what you think. And you can always post or even join our Girls About the Globe Facebook community and just ask in there. They're a really supportive group of women. Tip number 5, if you are volunteering or you're joining a placement abroad, the organisation that you book through will generally look after you. They will arrange group inductions and activities. If they haven't, you can just get in touch with the organisation and ask them to put you in touch with somebody who's already over there. So at least you have one contact in the country and someone that you know you can go to if you need any help. How to overcome travel anxiety on your trip. Try and picture the end result to remind yourself why you are doing this. For example, when I was in a long distance relationship and I was flying to Norway to see my boyfriend at the time, I had no flight anxiety. It didn't really bother me that I was getting on a flight for 2 hours because I knew that at the end of that flight, I was going to see somebody that I've missed and that I really wanted to see. So that kind of overrode any anxiety that I had. So if you're not actually going to visit anyone, you can just visualize yourself laying on the beach that you've been saving up for. Keep that as your happy place in your mind that you can just go to whenever you start to feel a bit of anxiety. You can congratulate yourself with every single step that you take. Self-soothing really helps, and I do this so much on my solo trips. I tell myself that I'm doing really well all the time, how amazing I am. And I just take it step by step, not in an egotistical way, but if you're flying, even flying alone, even going to the airport alone is a really big deal for some people. So congratulate yourself that you've been to the airport. Congratulate yourself that you're getting on that flight. Congratulate yourself and big yourself up that you're actually in another country by yourself. Try not to allow yourself to get travel fatigued. That's when my anxiety kicks in quite a lot. So sometimes we feel as though we should be doing, seeing everything. I used to be like this a lot in my 20s. I still am a little bit, but I've learned to slow down a bit. But especially if our trip is really short, we might just want to see and do everything. You do need to allow yourself enough rest days, especially if you're going somewhere on a different time zone. And you do need to build rest days into your itinerary. For example, I should have one rest day a week when I'm traveling. And if you take an overnight train or bus, make sure that you stay still for a couple of days after that just to recuperate. One trigger could be sugary drinks, caffeine, and junk food, which does make anxiety worse. We are what we eat, and I know it does sound like a bit of a cliche, but it is true. So watch what you put into your body. Avoid alcohol if you are having an anxious day. If you're not into meditation, have a look on YouTube and see if you can find some kind of calming song, or you can find a meditation on YouTube. One trick that I do on a plane is box breathing, which is whenever there's turbulence, it's turbulence that I feel. I don't actually fear being on a plane. Taking off, landing isn't a problem. It's turbulence that I struggle with because my heart starts to race really quickly. So what I do tend to do if I get turbulence, which generally always do on a flight, is do box breathing, which is when I breathe in for 5 seconds, I hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, and then I just repeat that process. It really calms down my nervous system, and I actually don't mind doing that on a plane because when I do get on a plane now, it does feel as though, okay, this can be a little bit of my meditation time as well. So I try and give it a bit of a positive spin and think about meditating on the plane. And there are plenty of anxiety meditations on YouTube to help you. When I returned back from England to Dubai, I actually listened to a flight anxiety meditation. I cannot tell you how calm I felt in the airport after listening to this. Just Google one on YouTube and just look at the comments. And if people are actually saying this meditation really made a difference, then have a listen to it. You've got nothing to lose. It really did make a difference with me. What you can do when you do get anxiety and your mind just starts to keep thinking and overthinking, go for a walk. Just by changing the energy within your body can really help. And within a few minutes, you'll be surprised at how much better you feel as you've taken that action. You can save positive affirmations, replace any negative thoughts with positive ones, instead of the negative thought of, what if I don't meet anyone? You can say, I am going to meet somebody on my trip. I can't wait to meet people on my trip. Just replace it with a positive one instead. Keep a travel journal to write in. This really helps if you haven't spoken to anyone in a few days as well. Just getting it out of your head onto paper can give the negative thoughts an outlet to help dissipate them. Get yourself into nature, whether it's by a beach or in a nearby park. Just anything just to ground yourself. Sometimes when I have anxiety, I just sit on a bench and I just observe everything around me. So I listen to the sound of the waves or the birds singing and just absorb myself in that moment and just forget what I'm really worrying about. I'm also a fan of emotional freedom technique. It's called EFT. If you haven't heard of it, it's a tapping technique. It works just by tapping certain meridian points on your body, and it can dissolve anxious thoughts and unlock any fears that you have surrounding it. It's really simple to do and really effective. I do this when I'm in an airport before I'm about to board a flight. And again, you can just YouTube it. So just YouTube EFT and you'll find the technique. When you're actually on the plane, maybe it's a control issue. Maybe the feelings of anxiety on the plane is because you can't control the plane. So my tips for actually being on the plane, I've obviously mentioned the box breathing before, and doing EFT at the airport just before you board, and listening to the flight anxiety meditation. You can also just think about all the things that you are in control of instead of not being able to control the plane. So bringing back control allows your mind to choose your reaction rather than allowing your body and mind to choose it for you. Wear loose-fitted clothes, for example, leggings instead of jeans. Wear shoes that you can slip off to make yourself more comfortable. Get up and walk around if it just gets a little bit too much. Go to the plane toilets, splash some water on your face, neck and wrists. Stay as cool as you can. I always have the airflow on and I direct the airflow onto me and turn it up if I need to. Instead of drinking caffeine, you could have a herbal tea such as peppermint or chamomile. And again, avoid the sugar and sweets if you can. You can also take apples or ginger tablets with you if you suffer from travel sickness. I do actually take travel sickness tablets when I go on a flight, and they do have a sedative in them. It doesn't make any difference to me. So it does stop me feeling sick because I do get lightheaded, but the sedative does not stop the anxiety. But you can also get C-bands if you don't want to take any medication. C-bands are just little bracelets that you put on your wrist and they put pressure on your pressure points. Make sure that you get a really good night's sleep before the flight and avoid early morning flights if you can. Being more tired can make you more anxious. This is kind of a personal preference. Like for me now, actually, I would rather get up and just get on the plane rather than have the whole day to think about the fact that I'm flying. So just play with this if you're taking a lot of flights and see which way you feel better doing it. I also take mints with me and I suck a mint whenever I start to feel anxious. You can upload some relaxing music on your iPod or even listen to an audiobook just to take your mind off the fact that you're on a plane. Don't listen or watch to anything that gets your heartbeat racing. I cannot listen to dance music on a plane. It just gets my heart going too much. You can sit as close to the front as you can. The back apparently moves more. And choose a window seat. I find that if I'm looking out the window, it does really help. One massive tip that somebody told me ages ago that helps is that if you do get turbulence and it gives you anxiety, Imagine that you're on a train when it starts rocking. So just think, I'm on a train, rather than I'm on a plane in the air. Also, look at the air stewardess and stewards. If they're not sitting down and they don't have their seatbelt on, then it is just normal turbulence. You can always read the magazine when you take off and when you land, because you can't have any electrical devices on at that time. Or you can learn something such as another language or something from a book to take your mind off what it's feeling. And just think how amazing you're going to feel once you get off and you arrive at your exciting destination. Worst case scenario, because generally always travel by myself, so I'm always sat next to a stranger, is ask to hold the person's hand next to you. Worst case scenario, if you really can't cope, I'm sure they will not mind. And just remember that when you're traveling alone with anxiety, any emotion that you're feeling is temporary. Energy goes where you put your focus on, so try and shift your focus to the good things about your trip. As I said before, do more research and then write down what you're actually excited about. But most of all, be kind to yourself and listen to your body. If you need to take another day to rest, then do it. It's your trip at the end of the day, and you really need to look after yourself first. So if you feel like staying in and just being invisible, not going out, not seeing anyone, then just do it. Take it step by step and do whatever you feel you need to do to feel better. Traveling alone really does take guts, and you are doing it. So you really need to celebrate yourself and big yourself up, because it's amazing what you're doing. And don't forget, if you do need any help, to join our Girls About the Globe Facebook community. There are so many girls in there on different time zones. There will always be someone on there to answer and to help you. Just remember that you are not alone. I really hope that this has given you a bit of advice and a bit more inspiration and empowerment if you ever do suffer from anxiety. And one final thing, because this is the final episode of season 10, I will be back in May with season 11. Do not forget to download your free Solo Travel Card app. It's an exclusive discount app for solo female travellers. And all you need to do is go to Google Play or the App Store, look for Girl About the Globe and download the app. It's free and you will get discounts to more than 34 solo female friendly brands. And I've got more coming on board as we speak. Happy Easter and have a wonderful, wonderful month. And I'll be back in May. In the meantime, safe travels.
Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.